Is technology at your work distracting you from actual work? Do you spend too much time troubleshooting PC or internet issues? IT Enabled can help. Our team of IT specialists can help you tackle your technology troubles and get you focused on growing your business in no time. Call to schedule your technology consultation, 936-225-3329. IT Enabled. We're here to help.
Hi, I'm Tara Watson-Watkins, President and CEO of the Lufkin Angelina County Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the Connect podcast, connecting business to the community. I'm here today with my co-host, Blake Polina with BP Media Group.
This week, we meet with Nathan Pruitt, the Human Resources Director at Georgia Pacific, to talk about this wonderful organization that employs a ton of people in our area, how they're changing with technology, and how they're growing and teaching the workforce of tomorrow. So let's jump into that episode now.
We're excited today to have Nathan Pruitt with Georgia Pacific on our podcast. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. This is a really cool experience. I'm glad you guys are doing a podcast for the county, and it's good to be on.
Thanks. Well, why don't you tell everybody about your background? Where'd you grow
Sure.
up? How'd you get to Lufkin? All of those things.
Great. So, sort of a local, sort of not. My dad grew up in Nacogdoches, and he played football for Nacogdoches. And but I actually grew up in Mont Belvieu, Texas. Went to Barbers Hill High School there, about 10 minutes from Baytown. And then from there, I got my undergraduate degree in human resources from Baylor University.
Okay.
And then from there, went to South Carolina to get an MHR degree, Master of Human Resources. From there, came back home to Houston, and then my wife and I moved to Nacogdoches, where I was an HR rep with SFA for a couple of years. And then in 2017, I started with Georgia Pacific and at the Diabol Particle Board facility, and I've been with them since. I just hit my 4-year reunion with Georgia Pacific. So thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about Georgia Pacific. I'm sure everyone is familiar with it, but for those who aren't, just kind of an overview of the company.
So the company, it's a really interesting company. So Georgia Pacific by itself is about 35,000 employees.
Mm-hmm.
We've got about 250 plants across the U.S., and it's all wood and related manufacturing. So you have your lumber, you have your plywood, OSB, particle board, and then you have your consumer products. Mm-hmm. That's your brawny paper towels, that's your Dixie cups, so all of those items, and basically anything from a tree, we make it.
That's great.
And then Georgia Pacific's also owned by Koch Industries. So if you've heard of Charles Koch, he's our leader, our CEO, and so I'll be probably sharing a couple quotes from him. But it's a really cool company to work for. And Koch Industries is also about 120,000 employees. So it's a great network of people to work with, and it's a really fascinating place to work for.
I've never thought about Georgia Pacific making Dixie cups.
Yes. Yes, it's kind of one of our kind of hidden
Yeah.
brands. So people recognize the brawny paper towels and Dixie cups, but they may not know that it's all made by Georgia Pacific.
Yeah, I've never thought about that at all.
I had no idea.
I knew the other stuff, but when you said that, I was like, oh, that's a new one for me.
Now, everything here in East Texas is all wood products. So we have 7 plants in the area covering 3 counties. Mm-hmm. So and we employ about 1,800 people in those 3 counties, so Sabine, Polk, and Angelina counties.
So let's talk about the type of people you employ. What are skill sets that you're looking for with your employees?
Yes. So again, with so many people and so many skill sets, mainly what we're hiring for, I break it down into 3 categories. So first is your skill craft. So that's basically maintenance techs. That's your electricians, reliability, and PLC programming. So that's one bucket of people that we're looking for and trying to develop. The second is the entry-level positions. So that's your production operators, your forklift operators, utility crew. That's where if someone is coming straight out of high school even, that's where they typically start, or we put them in one of our maintenance apprenticeship programs.
Sure.
And then the third bucket is your salary group. Those are your supervisors, your safety managers, HR, environmental, and of course engineers. So a lot of different skill sets, a lot of people it takes a lot of different diverse skill sets to make the products.
That's right. You have a lot of employees too.
Yes.
To do all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect. So tell us a little bit about kind of how things have changed. We've talked about here this month in podcast, there's been a lot of trends happening in employment and in human resources, I'm sure, as well.
Sure.
Kind of how have things changed for you guys over the last few years?
So the main focus with just keeping up with trends and changes is just utilizing new technologies that are coming out. So the way that we make, for example, particle board 50 years ago is a lot different than it is now. So now everything's automated. Some of our facilities are utilizing robotics.
That's great.
Everything is computer programmed. So that skill set of being comfortable with technology, whether it's something as simple as just using a tablet or a computer program, those skill sets are changing. And so we have to do a really good job of not only developing our current workforce, but identifying what those skill sets are going to be for, say, middle schoolers and high school schoolers,
right?
And investing in those new technologies and investing in the right people.
I think it's interesting how that's changed. I think when people think of manufacturing, we still think of the you go to work with the like the lunch pail and the hard hat and you work in a coal mine kind of thing.
Seen way too many movies.
Yeah, exactly. And but there's a lot more technology involved in it now.
Absolutely. So if you walk around a lot of our mills, there's far less manual labor than there was 50 years ago.
Right.
A lot of our operators, they're in booths, they're surrounded by computer screens and tablets, and they're operating everything via computer. And so it is a shift change when you're talking to someone about manufacturing. It doesn't always excite them, but when you say, "Hey, we're actually a technology company,"
yeah, you really are.
We are utilizing robotics and virtual reality for maintenance teams, and it's all coming. And then the interest is sparked.
Yeah, I saw a video here recently of someone who worked a longshoreman where they were unloading the containers off of a ship. And he's in this booth with these controllers and these computer screens. It's like, this guy plays video games for
all
a living.
day.
Yeah, like that's
right. Yeah,
it's not this real manual labor intensive thing. He literally and it was funny. He had like no shoes on and he had like a drink to the side. I was like, that's kind of a really cool job.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And for me as an HR manager, it's really rewarding when you can identify the right folks, you get them in the right path, whether that's a supervisor path, an operator path, or changing someone's mind from, hey, I want to be a supervisor to, hey, actually, you have the skill sets to be a really great electrician. Let's put you through school. Let's get you on that path. And then all of a sudden, a whole new world is opened up for them, and they didn't realize that was the best opportunity given their skill sets. And so it can be really rewarding when you're working with a supervisor and you say, hey, this is your team of people. Think about them as a football team or a sports team. How do you develop each person to be the best person at their position, if you will? And that is a really cool thing to be a part of.
We talk about the Manufacturing Alliance a lot on this podcast.
We do.
And from the get-go, Georgia Pacific was right in, like, how can we get involved, get us plugged in? And y'all have done such a great job of working with SFA and Angelina College and other areas to be able to say, okay, these are the things we need training with, and working with the schools to be able to get the appropriate training so that you can either retrain people that have lost jobs from other industries that have, closed, or take those high school kids and get them going down that right path, the technology path, so that they can get trained and come out to you. And I'm just thinking about our program leadership tomorrow, and we're really excited because next year we're going to be partnering a lot with Angelina College and really trying to show kids what cool things are out there that if they come back home, they can now do.
Exactly. And we're all about scooping up undervalued, underutilized people. And there are those folks that they fall into the category of, hey, I'm not sure if a 4-year degree is for me. What does East Texas offer? And we love to be the ones to swoop in and say, hey, you probably didn't know this about Georgia Pacific, and this is what we have to offer. And we try to, again, interest kids at a young age, middle school, high schoolers. We need to do more of that and just open up their eyes to what's available here. And then for the folks that know, hey, I'm going to go off to a 4-year school. Okay, well, like me, I went to South Carolina. I went to Waco for school, and I'm back home.
That's right.
And so if we can just plug that idea as early as possible, we're going to
there are things
get
to
all
come
that
back
talent.
home to.
That's right.
Yeah,
absolutely. And East Texas has a lot to offer.
That's right. That's cool.
Very cool. Are you seeing a change in the kind of the workforce as the new generations are coming up, and what they're interested in and what they're looking for as you hire people as often as you do?
You'd be surprised. Some of the generational differences actually have more to do with just their age. So there are some generational differences, but sometimes I feel like it's unfair to compare a 25-year-old to someone who's 55 and comparing their work habits and whatnot. So some of that is just a factor of, hey, this is someone who's still trying to find their way versus labeling, oh, you're a boomer, you fall into this category, you all act the same, and you're a millennial, or you all act the same. So we just try to look at everybody as an individual and understand what their individual strengths and weaknesses are, and put them on the right path to success.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's a very HR answer.
Yes.
I realized halfway through that question, I was like, I just asked an HR guy an ageism question.
Sure.
No, that's very good. So how are you helping to prepare your workforce for tomorrow? Like, as things are changing, what are the things that you're doing that you're changing with it?
So again, it comes back to partnering with the supervisors to understand and get to know their direct reports. So typically you have, say, a ship supervisor. He's it varies, but maybe that person has 20 years of experience. They know how the mill runs. They know what each operator does. And if they understand their team, they understand their strengths and weaknesses. And so I'm not going to put somebody on a path to be an electrician if they do not have the skill set to do that. And then also helping people unlock their individual talents. So, for example, someone could have some leadership skills and everybody kind of listens to them, and they're currently in an operator role, and they would never think of themselves as, hey, I'm a leader. But then you give them some confidence and say, hey, we've noticed this about you. Here's some training that we can give you. Here's some of our internal resources, our market-based management trainings that we have. Let's have you fill in as a shift supervisor and see if you like it. And if you don't, go back to what you feel most comfortable doing. But we see this in you. And no matter what those paths are, we really try to dig down to the individual at that point. For, say, a maintenance path, we do partner with Angelina College on an apprenticeship program where we will pay for that employee's tuition and books. And then the rest of the time that they're not in class, they will work shoulder to shoulder with an experienced maintenance person or electrician. And once they're graduated and they're to a certain point with their skill set, they get that full promotion to that maintenance tech or electrician. And so that is a really great program. So we are always looking for new and different ways to train. One of the programs that we use is Amatrol for maintenance and electrical courses that are really hands-on. It's not just death by PowerPoint, but it's very user-friendly and interactive, and it's really cool.
That's
really
great.
Cool program.
Love that.
Well, y'all are definitely training the workforce, and we're so proud to have Georgia Pacific in our area.
Yes.
It's great.
Great. Awesome.
Great for
Well,
all
what do you
of
want
us.
people to know about Georgia Pacific that they may not know?
I think just the wide opportunities that we have and being part of a large organization really gives us some advantages. So if I have an HR question that I'm not sure of, I've got thousands of people I could reach out to for assistance. If there comes a point in your career where you're a few years in and you've hit a ceiling, we have 250 other plants we could promote you to that may have an opportunity. So that is a really, really cool thing about being with Georgia Pacific, that there's just, there is really no ceiling for you as long as you just keep working and keep moving up and keep learning.
Love
and
that.
we have a lot of resources for that.
That's great.
Tons of opportunity. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah,
having
we
me.
love having you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate
Thanks.
you being on the podcast here with us. And thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We truly appreciate you tuning in every week and listening. These episodes drop every Monday. If you want to watch the video version of this podcast, it's available on the Chamber YouTube page and on the Chamber Facebook page. And if you'll do us a huge favor and rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening, that's a huge help to us. And thank you so much. We'll see you next week.